This is the movie that started my love, yet also disgust for horror movies about skin-eating viruses. Let's do it. Cabin Fever opens up with this guy named Henry walking through the woods, and he comes across a dead dog. Sorry. But as he's going to investigate it, some blood bursts out of the dog and hits him in the face. We then cut and meet this group of college friends who is going to this remote cabin in the woods for a weekend getaway. The group consists of Paul and Karen. Paul obviously has had a thing for her for a long time. Marcy and Jeff, who are dating, and Bert, who is kind of just a fucking idiot. So Bert is out in the woods just mindlessly shooting squirrels, and suddenly Henry stumbles along, now clearly ill, and Bert accidentally shoots him, and instead of going to help or telling anybody, he just leaves and just doesn't say anything. So that night, the group makes a campfire, they're telling stories, hanging out. This dude Grim and his dog, Grim's played by the director Eli Roth, comes out of the woods and hangs out with them for a little bit, but then they leave. And then suddenly Henry stumbles out of the woods as well, so he is still alive. The group panics, they go inside, Bert tells them to close the door, he locks Henry out but still doesn't tell them what happened. So Henry turns to their truck and tries to steal it, but when he gets inside, he vomits blood everywhere, so now the whole car is infected. Henry then starts approaching the group who has come outside at this point, and Paul accidentally sets him on fire. So the next day rolls around, the group is now stranded because they have no car because this one's covered in blood. And it's also just like smashed and broken from the chaos. They don't have any cell phone service. So Jeff and Bert set out to go try and find a house or something where they can call for help, and they run into this butcher. And when they go into the house, they see pictures of Henry, so he's related to these people. Eventually a cop does show up because he heard about the commotion last night, and this dude is just a fucking idiot. Promises Paul that he's gonna send a tow truck and all you gotta do is party. Just party on, dude, that's it. We see that Karen is really upset by the situation that happened the night prior, understandably. And she also has been drinking the water in the cabin, and she starts to feel not great. So Paul gets in bed with her and is comforting her, and he decides it's time to make a move. But when he goes to touch her, he looks at his hand and notices that it's covered in blood. When he looks, he finds that she has this huge gaping wound on her thigh. So she has the disease that Henry had, so the group decides to isolate her and put her in the shed so they don't catch it. So eventually the group is able to fix the truck, and as he's doing that, Bert starts coughing up blood, so he's infected as well, but he hides it from the rest of the group. Eventually he can't hide it, and the group notices and refuses to get in the truck with him, so he just drives off by himself. Jeff, meanwhile, takes a pack of beer and is like, yeah, fuck all of you, and he goes off by himself. So Bert goes to this local gas station that they had stopped at the way to the cabin, and when they were there, they met Dennis, who bit Paul. And when Bert gets there, this is the infamous pancake scene. Dennis just starts yelling pancakes and doing karate, and he bites Bert, which infects himself. So Dennis's father then blames Bert for this, and he and his friends start chasing him. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Marcy and Paul are like, well, we're probably gonna get this infection and die soon, so we might as well do it. So they have sex, and then Paul leaves the cabin to go find Jeff. And Marcy takes a shower, and this is where we get the famous leg shaving scene, because she goes to shave her legs and her skin all comes off with it. So she's also infected. So Marcy panics and runs outside where she encounters Grim's dog, and the dog proceeds to maul her to death. Meanwhile, Paul is running through the woods looking for Jeff when he looks in the reservoir and he finds Henry's dead body bleeding out into it. Well, he understands that this infection is spreading through the water supply. That's how they got it. So he runs back to the cabin where he finds Marcy's body, and he also finds the dog eating Karen's face off. I can't show this in color, but ultimately he kills the dog, sorry again, and he mercy kills Karen with a shovel. Paul takes Bert's gun, the one that he was, shooting the squirrels and Henry with earlier. And at this point, Bert returns to the cabin, but Dennis's father and his posse are chasing him, and ultimately they shoot and kill Bert. They then turn their sights on Paul, but Paul kills the three of them in self-defense. Paul steals a truck, and as he's driving, he starts to cough, and you can tell that he's infected too. Eventually, he finds this party in the woods, and he stops, and he finds this fucking stupid-ass deputy who is partying with underage kids, and Paul is like, what happened to that tow truck, man? Now, on the way here, Paul hit a deer, so the car is totaled, so he asks the deputy for a ride. And the deputy agrees, but then this radio transmission comes through, and it tells him that those kids in the woods went on a murder spree, and if you see them, shoot them on sight. Well, Paul manages to fight off the deputy and run into the street where he just passes out. His car passes him and takes him to a hospital, and he wakes up there. He finds that the deputy is there as well, and the doctors tell him that they need to transfer Paul to another hospital because they are simply not equipped for whatever he has. So the deputy offers to take Paul to that hospital and he puts him in his car and they leave. But we cut to the next day and we go to the middle of the woods and we find Jeff, who has been hanging out just drinking his pack of beer. He goes back to the cabin where he sees that everybody else is dead and he starts celebrating that he survived and he's not infected. But his celebration doesn't last long because he is shot and killed by a police posse. They put him on a pyre where they burn his body along with the others. One of the cops asks the deputy if he took care of Paul. We then cut to Paul and see that he is barely alive in the woods and he is bleeding out into the lake. We then see these kids get water out of the lake for their lemonade stand. The deputy and all the other officers stop at this lemonade stand and buy a cup of lemonade and drink it, and the movie ends. So we know that everybody just got infected.